welcome to episode number 10 of the Sheffield Hopcast. And a special one for us because we are recording this just a couple of days before the start of Sheffield Beer Festival, and therefore we are at Kelham Island Museum, where it will all be taking place in a few days' time. We're actually in a pub of sorts. We're in a place called the Mill Owners Arms. Now, if you've been to Kelham Island Museum, you might be aware of it. It's actually kind of like a representation of a pub with various kind of things on the wall that teach you a bit about the pub scene of Sheffield over the years. So it's kind of like a pub museum, if you like, and it can actually be used as a pub as well for special events and whatnot. So we'll be chatting to Eddie from Kelham Island Museum a little bit later on to find out a bit more about this venue and to find out how preparations are going ahead of the beer festival. I'm James. Now, we have no Adam tonight. We have replaced him with a sack of potatoes, which Sean brought with him.
So far, they've been marginally better than Adam normally is.
It's just the three of us. Now, Paul, who is one of the organisers of Sheffield Beer Festival, was hoping to join us on the Hopcast tonight. He's super busy getting things ready, but we'll hopefully catch up with him for a chat a little bit later on. Sean is here, as you've heard.
Good evening.
It's that time. It's Beer of the Month.
Beer of the month. All of mine seem to centre around little trips, so that's telling me something that I like drinking beer when I'm away from home. Me and Deb sneaked across to York just for a night last weekend, and I actually went down to their camera pub of the year, the Rook and Gaskell, Sunday afternoon, but got there, pushed the door, it firmly pushed me back, and it opened at 4 o'clock. When I looked at the opening times. So I had a trek back into the city, because that's just south of the city. Went to a favourite pub of mine, the Maltins, just by Lendal Bridge, and went in, had a pint of cookie cream stout by Turning Point Brewery, based up in North Yorkshire. Beer was called Lucid Dream, and outstanding. Also had the Thornbridge salted caramel Lucaria a little bit later on that day, and that was very, very close to it as well, but I just preferred the Lucid Dream. Turning Point, brilliant beer.
Sounds good. Laura, what's your beer of the month?
Well, I've kind of got two.
That's all right.
Just couldn't choose between them. One of them is from Brickeriot Brewery, who are a brewery that I really, really enjoy, Alpha Beta. I read the label and I was like, how the hell is that going to work? It's described as a complex and refreshing Berliner Weiss with beetroot, passion fruit, lime and vanilla.
Ooh.
And I mean, I love all of those things separately, but did I really want them all together? Turns out, yes, I did. Really, really good, just obscenely well balanced. And really surprising. And then the other one, which I kind of hate myself a little bit for, because I try really hard not to get all aboard the hype train, but I was at Indie Man yesterday and I queued for the Omnipollo Buxton original double strawberry ice cream soft serve, and it was just all my hopes and dreams come true. And the only way I could think to describe it was just so sweet, and that really, it didn't taste like actual strawberries, it was proper strawberry ice cream. And I was just saying, it's like if My Little Pony did beer, and it was just right up my street.
They should have called it that, actually.
my Little
Pony.
So yeah, less well balanced, definitely less beery, but I just really enjoyed it.
Did you have that, James? I saw you with a little pink number.
Well, we should just prelude this with the fact that all three of us went to Indie Man over the weekend, although not on the same days. Sean and I were there on Friday. Laura, you waited until Sunday. No, I had the raspberry soft serve, and I've heard a lot of talk about them. I know, obviously, Laura, you've talked about them before, so I was quite excited about having it. I was maybe just a little bit disappointed. I couldn't quite figure out what it was trying to be, what it was trying to do. It just seemed it confused me a little.
I think I found a few of the others a bit confusing, like there's still that residual bitterness that you get in some of them. I think that doesn't quite work, but there was just none of that, and it was literally like a melted strawberry ice cream in a glass, the strawberry one.
I was annoyed because when I got there, and they got the signs up for the strawberry one, so I said, the strawberry one, I said, we've only just put it in, so it won't be cold enough yet. You've got a choice between, I think it's chocolate or raspberry. I was like, don't really want either of those.
Yeah.
And then Sean poured the remains of your whatever chocolate beer you were having, you poured that into it.
Yes.
So I ended up with a mishmash of raspberry and chocolate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I remember that now.
That's pretty good.
It was.
But I had
it was
forgotten about
it. So my beer of the month does come from Indie Man on Friday. In fact, I've got an honourable mention because after going to Indie Man and getting back home, and I got back home relatively early, about 8ish, something like that. So I thought, I can't go to bed yet, so I'll stay up and have a beer and watch a bit of TV. And the beer that I got in the fridge, which I know was on at the festival, but I didn't get it because I knew I got it in the fridge. And I think there's a few different breweries involved in that. In this one, Don't Mess with Manchester. Which is to celebrate, is it the opening of a new bar or something?
Northern Monk's new bar,
Yes.
opened just over a week ago in Manchester's Northern Quarter. Yep.
That was lovely, that was really, really nice. And that was one of my, certainly in terms of standard beers, that was my favourite one that I drank actually through the whole day. But the beer that I'm going to pick out as my favourite was the Daya and Verdant collab, Eye of the Duck, which was a sour IPA with raspberry, lactose, almond and vanilla, which, not unlike yours, Laura, kind of seems like quite a few random flavours to throw together, but it just worked, and it got a real load of depth to it, and it was one of those beers that kind of, as you drank it, its taste kind of developed and changed. It was really unusual, and I really liked that, and I thought it was a really good beer, so that's my beer of the month. We don't know what Adam's is, because he's turned into a sack of subs.
Yeah, should we ask it? No.
Sack of Taters is obviously going to vote for something like vodka or something, isn't it? Because
there was a potato and spruce sour from your brewery, Brewery.
I've got one in the fridge at home.
There you go.
I haven't tried it yet. But
I know
I'm
of
quite
at least
looking
one
forward to it.
person whose can exploded, so I would drink that nice and quickly.
Okay,
Laura.
thank you. Noted.
That's only in the last week as well.
It's been in the fridge, so hopefully it'll be alright.
so the theme tonight, and we, as we always do in our little kind of chat group that we've got between the three of us and the Sack of Spuds, we kind of discuss ideas for what theme we're going to go for, and Laura actually came up with the theme for tonight because we wanted to do something to mark the beer festival, but we've already done like a Sheffield Beers episode before, so each of us have picked out a brewery who are here over the weekend, who've got a beer on at Sheffield Beer Festival over the weekend, and we've picked out a beer from one each from those breweries. Now Paul, obviously, who was going to join us, he's picked one out as well, so that's how we get to our 4 beers, and the first one is the brewery picked out by Sean.
It is a beer that has been around for a short while now, but this is the whole sort of new version of it. The brewery is Arbor from Bristol, top class brewery, particularly strong on their cask stuff. Their breakfast stout goes down in legend to Shakespeare's particularly. I think it was their beer of the year in 2013, 2014 when Chris and Robin were there. So Arbor, based in Bristol, very smart brewery, and they've just in the last few days released brand new cans. They're pretty famous within the sort of bottle and can sort of group of packages of doing pint bottles. So their bottles are full pint bottles, and it's fantastic to see that with the new cans they've done exactly the same. So we have a jet black tall can that's just dwarfed the Abbeydale can that we put it alongside a few moments ago. The beer's Mosaic. It's a gluten-free single hop pale ale. Good news is that this is on at the beer festival as well, on cask. The 1 pint cans just look menacing.
They're huge.
They are
It's
absolutely
so big.
huge.
How have they done it though? Because even their bottles look bigger than other 1 pint bottles. They've always managed to just make stuff that looks bigger, and that's
very imposing.
That's massive.
Very imposing. Looks like a shell that should be fired at some baddies in the distance. So a brilliant looking can. The Mosaic single hop are really heavily hopped. and we'll get lots of tropical flavour. A nice sort of start to the evening, just over 4%, so we'll get off to a good start.
Starting off nice and gentle.
Yes.
So here we go, Arbor Mosaic. Have you ever had any 1 pint cans in before?
I don't think we have. We may have had. They may have been. Well, they were American. May have been a 1 pint can. There might have been a Founders real biggie that they did, but I think this is certainly the first UK one that I'm familiar with. And if it was the States, it would have been American pint anyway.
I mean, part of me wants it because we've got sort of traditional pint glasses to drink from tonight that have been brought to us by the museum. Part of me just wants to, pop the whole can.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be sharing nicely.
Very fruity smell.
So gluten-free as well. There's a real revolution at the moment in terms of gluten-free brewing in the UK. Not much more than a year ago, 18 months ago, the general offering was steady away and consistent and familiar. Nowadays, lots of new breweries particularly are brewing gluten-free beers. Arbor amongst them, obviously Magic Rock as well, perhaps lead the way with Phantasma. Lots and lots of, even Sheffield Breweries, Brew Foundation, lots and lots of options now in terms of gluten-free. Generally when we're stocking them now, it's rare for them to drop below sort of 16, 18 options in the shop, so that's fantastic and is really strong. A lot of demand for gluten-free beers in Sheffield, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great, 'cause a couple of years ago I'd imagine that would have been, what, 1 or 2?
Yeah.
World
top.
Yeah,
it would have been. I think we've had as many as 22, 23 at different points, but...
Yeah, this tastes good, but I'm a bit. It does feel more like I'm drinking a bottled beer. Actually, it's not got very much carbonation to it. I don't think that's particularly affecting the flavour. I just don't really feel like I'm drinking a beer that's come out of a can.
Mine's got a fly in it now. Just floating.
A
Victorian
Victorian fly.
Bit of a fly, that's fine.
So colour of it, a
Nice
little
and
bit
easy
darker.
drinking.
Yeah, a little bit darker than I expected. A little bit darker.
It's very orangey,
Yeah,
slightly
almost an
ruby
amber,
sort of colour.
Nice bitterness to it.
You're absolutely right though, Laura. It doesn't have anything like the kind of fizz that you'd expect it to have coming out of a can. The can looks very kind of modern. The beer, I don't say it doesn't taste modern, but it just doesn't pour very modern. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if I had poured that all into the same pint glass, you'd have thought you had a flattish pint of cask.
Yeah.
We're guessing that's probably deliberate. Kind of brewery that they are.
Yeah, possibly.
But they're not a safe brewery, are they?
Probably
I mean,
not. The bottles were always bottle conditioned and really excellent quality.
Does it say anything
So,
about if they can conditioning on there?
I don't think they are. It is available, this beer, on cask at the festival, so it'd be interesting for us to try that, perhaps on Wednesday as an alternative.
Yeah. It's really tasty though.
Yeah.
Very clean taste to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very simple. It knows what it is.
Yeah, typical sort of little
I'm enjoying
blueberry
it.
feel to it, mosaic.
And I'm really happy that I can just, nicely drink that, because I was wondering
Yeah.
how it was going to go. I've been feeling slightly worse for wear
Yeah,
today
so
after
that is a nice
yesterday's.
start for you. That a nice
Indie Man.
gentle
Yeah.
start.
Do we have any stories from Indie Man then that are suitable for sharing? Sean missed you missed your train home, or I managed to help you miss your train home.
I did catch the train. The train was delayed.
Oh, right.
And so I would have missed the train, but the train was delayed. But then obviously I had to stand up all the way back to Sheffield. But it was interesting nonetheless. Last year, both trains were standing, both to Manchester and back. This time only one way was standing, so it's a big improvement.
Yeah.
We got the wrong train.
You got the wrong train.
This is
Yeah.
a better story.
Yeah, we just casually, it said on the platform that it was the right train and leaving at 2018, and on we got, and it just, chugged off the platform at 10 past, and we're like, where are we going? And we went to Manchester Airport. It was a bit of a shame, so it took us nearly 2.5 hours to get home instead of an hour.
Crikey.
But, we were on the train, we were all right, we've made some friends.
Yeah, everybody else had a suitcase.
Wow.
But yeah, we had a really good day, caught up with loads of great people. I think going on the Sunday, there were slightly fewer sort of tradey people there. Still plenty of people that we know through, from bars and breweries around.
A bit more casual.
But it was actually really, really busy, but it was nice to spend the day being...
I think it's nice perhaps on the Sunday to just slam your foot down on the pedal. It's not as embarrassing getting slaughtered on a Sunday as it is on a Friday. Is it, Aura?
Well, actually, because it wasn't quite sold out for Sunday, I don't think, but there were very few tickets left. But the general kind of feedback that I was getting from the people behind the bars was that they were busier, despite there being slightly fewer people, because people were, just
more drinking than chatting.
So,
It did sell out on the Sunday, because I remember seeing a tweet from them, quite late on Sunday morning, saying that both the sessions had sold out.
Right. Well, I was trying to be relatively sensible, but then when we arrived, the reason Jim and I decided to go on the Sunday was because the beer that we made with Torside, as Mash Tun and Meow, was pouring, and we got there and they said it had nearly all gone, so we started the day on a 12.5% imperial peated ginger barley wine, which we really, really enjoyed. So shameless little plug there for Power Stance, which is our recent collaboration toast. I think it's still available in bottles.
And I know this is a podcast, so people out there can't see the photos that Laura took while she was at the festival, but we've seen them, and she clearly had a very good day.
And then a lovely trip to Manchester Airport afterwards. Yeah, fair enough. It's first time that I've been, and I was really looking forward to it. And it's a great little event, isn't it? And it's
a brilliant venue,
such a good venue.
Really.
I was trying to explain to my mum the fact that it was kind of like, it's an old swimming pool, and some of the bars are inside the swimming pool, and then you have to, you climb up some stairs here, and then some ladders there, and just walk through this little changing room.
We found a secret staircase that took us up to what we christened the VIP section because we'd found it.
We found it. We didn't know how to get back afterwards, but we found it.
I think I found a different room or a bit of it every year that I've been. I can't remember if it was the first year or the second year, and Northern Monk had one of the small Turkish bathrooms, and I was wandering around. I thought I was going back to kind of the main area, and I got a little bit lost, and I stumbled in, and it was pitch black with red lights and a monk in the corner, and they were playing like creepy music, and I was just like, where on earth am I, and where is everyone else? But it's definitely an experience. I'd really recommend it to.
Yep. There was a rave room on Friday when we were there, wasn't there? 11 o'clock in the morning, and got all the lights turned down, and some strobe lighting and disco lighting and stuff, and the tunes banging out. That was.
I think it's most beer festivals have a general atmosphere and theme to them all, whereas Indie Man has whichever room you go in, there's a different feel, different atmosphere, and I think it's excellent. Even better as a result of that, you've almost got 3 or 4 or 5 different little festivals going off in their own right within one venue.
Yeah.
Controversial opinion though, and I completely understand why they weren't there, but I did kind of miss the Beavertown vibe, because that has been my favourite room in the past. And I think they've been room sponsors every year up until now, but we're not invited to go along this year because of the Heineken bar, which I do understand, but they always had a really good mood. But it was good fun. I liked the Verdant Room this year.
The Verdant Room was very busy when I was there, and very serious. No one seemed to want to smile in the Verdant Room. It was the serious room. It was you can't be, if you're not cool enough to not smile, you're not welcome.
Yeah, craft beer can be a little bit earnest.
It was a bit moody
sometimes.
I think that's why I'm glad I went on the Sunday, because I think there were more people there that were, interested in beer and in finding out and just going along for a few drinks rather than
less business,
taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
But I think Burning Sky had the most fun.
Real ale can be a bit grumpy. Craft beer can be a bit earnest, a bit serious. They could both just laugh a little bit more, I think.
We did enough laughing for everyone.
Yes, we did.
Right then, Arbor Mosaic, thoughts?
Steady away, pretty much what I expected, apart from its condition.
Yeah. Very drinkable, very pleasant, very soft, very gentle.
Yeah.
But nice.
Yeah, I agree on all points, but don't think I have very much more to add, really.
We're making it so easy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
We are going to ramp things up a little now with our next beer, which comes from the brewery that I've picked, which is the Colonel, and this is India Pale Ale HBC 431, and I'm hoping that Sean knows what that means because I have no idea.
Hops get a test name. Laura actually would also hopefully clarify what I'm saying. But hops get a test name before release, and I know I had a beer. I'm sure I had an HBC 431 produced by Flying Dog going back maybe 3 years ago. So they get a test name before release, and this was the test name, and it seemed to catch on. So most hops then get a changed brand name. So Mosaic would have had a test number name as it started, and then became Mosaic. Famously, Equinox got into a little bit of trouble and had to be renamed Equinaut about 12 months ago. But this test name remained, and so I suppose it makes it relatively unique. I think there's a couple of others done exactly the same. But this is just its original test name that's been retained, HBC 431. So it's the name of a hop.
Okay. That's
simple as that.
Less construed than the new Cloudwater naming system or whatever. They must have a very big spreadsheet there to help them keep up with all their different
massive
names and numbers.
So this is Colonel Brewery, and based in Bermondsey down in London, and just an absolute class outfit and brewery. I think kicked off probably. I'm trying to think when they started, but certainly they were there at the sort of start of the craftier side of brewing. So something maybe around 2010, 2011, 2012. I would guess we could research that, but we're not quite as geeky enough to do it. But absolutely class brewery, and as people know from the branding on their bottles, very simple, not over fussy in any way. All their beers are named by style and the hops that go inside, and they're real sort of leaders. Lots of respect from lots of other more modern breweries in the industry, even though they're a relatively new brewery anyway. But they were there pretty much at the start of the sort of turnings to the sort of craft revolution side of the industry.
So this is my choice. I picked out the Colonel for the reason really that I think we've only featured one of their beers before, and we all talked at the time when we featured them about them being just a really good brewery who just make good beers. You know, the way that you kind of describe the labels there, I think that you could probably use the same description to describe the brewery. Yeah. They're just kind of no fuss. They just make pretty straightforward, simple beers that tend to hit the mark pretty much every time. And I've had a few since we last featured them on the Hopcast. They've got, I think it's an export stout that they've got on the keg bar here at the Sheffield Beer Festival. And as soon as I noticed them, I thought, you know what, I think it's probably time for us to feature another Colonel beer, which is why I picked them. Any thoughts on it? It's got quite an unusual smell. It smells like a brewery.
Yeah, it's got that sort of...
That smell that you get when you go inside
smell.
A brewery, kind of like not a finished beer smell, kind of a beer in progress smell.
Yeah, nice bitterness to it, which
doesn't
of course
taste
is now
anything
on the way
like
back.
it though.
Ooh, that's quite sharp, isn't it?
I don't think it's my favourite beer from them, but
6.9%.
it's an interesting IPA.
They tend to stick to within reason, a general core range of beers. they always have a range of pale ales, tend to hover around the 5% mark, just over. They have a range of IPAs, both multiple hop and single hop IPAs. They tend to hover around 6.8 to 7.1, 7.2%. They do a brilliant export India porter, stunning imperial brown stout. They do a fair number of saisons. Their saison sour damson this year has been very well celebrated. And so don't vary too wide of the mark. You'll not find them, they do an annual release run like London Brick, Hoppy Red, but you'll not find them going cookie cream dough and potato in there and are too complicated.
They don't do things like sours and stuff, do they?
They do sours,
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen
special sort of one-off releases.
Yeah, they tend to be.
London.
They've done like the Bière de Saisons.
Yeah.
And,
Of course, yeah. They always get very good reviews
Very
as well.
good, very good. So they complement their core range and style with some seasonal specials that still don't sort of go too wild and too wide of the mark. Very classic in what they do, and get a lot of respect, as I said, as a result of that. They don't go chasing anything. And they did open up their brewery for a while, up until a couple of years ago, down at Bermondsey as part of the Bermondsey Beer Mile, but then they started to get sort of one or two complaints about it being too busy because it was incredibly popular, and queues for the toilets and queues for the bar, and so in the end they said, tell you what, stuff it, we'll open as a bottle shop for takeaways on a Saturday. And they would have made a fortune out of those Saturdays on site, but turned their backs on that because they wanted everyone to be happy and not have to complain and so on. And I've been to a couple of them and they were rammed, but you just mucked in and sat next to whoever was there and had a good chat and had some gorgeous cheese and gorgeous bread from retailers just next door. But in the end, I think the pressure got so high that they thought, stuff it, we'll have our Saturdays off and enjoy ourselves.
I really respect that as well. You know, if in opening it, you know, you're providing a certain feel and a certain kind of experience for the group of people that are there, but if it gets to the point where, as they clearly did, they felt it was having a negative impact on the stuff they really wanted to be concentrating on, then, you know, I completely respect that. Kudos to them for doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier on then, we are in the Mill Owners Arms part of the Kelham Island Museum complex, which will be, well, it's in the process of being transformed, ready for Sheffield Beer Festival. And let's find out a bit more about the venue as a whole, and let's chat to Eddie.
My name's Eddie Foster. I work at Kelham Island Industrial Museum. I'm the Technical Services Manager for the Trust that looks after Kelham Island Museum, Abbeydale Industrial Hamlet and Shepherd Wheel.
Now, we were just chatting before we started recording about this being quite an unusual venue for us to record the Hopcast in, and yet in some ways not an unusual venue because we're kind of in a pub, we're kind of not in a pub.
Yeah, this was kind of the brainchild of my old boss, whose greatest wish to have his own little corner pub, and he'd run Kelham Island Museum for years and years. So when we decided we were going to tell the story of Sheffield's brewing past, what better way to do it than was to create a little boozer in the corner of the car park and then use the notice boards and text panels all around the outside of the walls of the little pub to tell the story.
So, just so we get this absolutely clear, so this is not an operational pub as such, although people can hire it out, is that true?
That's right. During the daytime it's a gallery space, so you walk in, it looks like a pub but it tells the story. But there is actually a bar, there's taps that can be set up so we can sell real ales from in here and have beer fridges. And you can hire out this place for parties up to 55 people with a bar with little bits of music and catered.
Obviously, we're counting down to Sheffield Beer Festival, which will be a few more than 55 people over the course of the days that's on. What's it kind of like for you as the museum to have an event like that here? Because it's several consecutive years that it's been here now.
I don't know whether we're in our fourth or fifth year since they moved from Ponds Forge. Sheffield Camera kind of descend on us. But we've got a lot slicker at helping out and getting marquees up quick. We elongate the setup a little bit more, so they were in on Sunday in the spaces that they could get into while we were open. So yeah, we're in front of plan, and there will be more than 55 people visiting, I'm sure.
What kind of challenges does it present for a venue like this? Because you kind of quite a few smaller rooms rather than just one big room, say as it was at Ponds Forge.
Yeah, it's spread out over 2 floors, which is a bit awkward for setup, although we've got a ramp that you can drive up into our upper gallery, so vans can reverse up, drop off all the kit. I've spent all day today ferrying fork truckfuls of barrels of beer up and down the ramp. But other than that, it's power requirements for chillers in different spaces. But I mean, it's not as big as our Christmas market, and we manage that. So yeah, it's just a short, intense period of setting up. Have a really big party beer festival and then set it back down again, pretty much all in a day on the Sunday.
Okay, obviously you mentioned at the start about the fact that your job kind of encompasses more than just this museum. Just tell us a little bit about kind of the other sites that you're involved with.
Yeah, so Kelham's industrial heritage, kind of well into the Industrial Revolution, whereas Abbeydale Hamlet's right at the beginning, so it's water-powered site. It's the earliest example of a water-powered, nearly a factory, because nearly all the processes needed from raw materials to an end product is in one place. So it's like a factory, but it's a very, very early example, and it's all water-powered. Late on, they did have a steam engine, and we have got that back in steam now, so it's a functioning site. We can run the water wheels. We run a water wheel every Wednesday, or we can run all water wheels at events, and we can run the steam engine as well. Shepherd Wheels, a tiny little grinding hull workshop in Whiteley Woods. Same story, very similar vintage to Abbeydale, and just did one small product, not in a factory environment, just in one grinding hull.
It sounds fascinating. There must be people probably in Sheffield and further afield that maybe don't kind of know really who you are here and what you do. If anyone wants to find out more about the places, how would they go about doing that?
If they find our website and our Facebook pages, so it's Sheffield Industrial Museums Trust, or Kelham Island Museum, or Abbeydale Industrial Hamlet, or Shepherd Wheel. We're all over the internet and Instagram and Facebook, but there's really good websites that will take you through and give you guidance on the 3 sites and show you how to get to us.
Brilliant. And obviously we've talked about the beer festival. You mentioned about the Christmas market there as well. What other big annual events do you have here?
We do a 40s event in the summer as well. It used to be more of a wartime weekend, but we're trying to move towards more of a generic 40s event, and that's well attended. It's a bit of a niche market. There's people follow 40s events all around the country, and ours is beginning to get really well established, so it gets well visited.
Well, anything else that you want to get across?
Come to the beer festival, and then after the beer festival come back to the museum and come and experience the museum as it is, because when you visit the museum at the beer festival, you'll not see the museum in all its glory, although you will see the River Don engine run each day and on evenings as well.
Well, Eddie, thank you for your time.
No problem at all, thank you.
Big thanks to Eddie and to all the staff at Kelham Island Museum who have stayed behind late tonight on Monday as we record this ahead of the beer festival starting on Wednesday, so that we can record this. So big thanks to them. Great venue, and like Eddie said, if you come into the beer festival at the weekend, have a look round and then come back at another point, because it's a really magnificent place, this, and I think there must be so many people in Sheffield that just don't know it's here, or have never been, or just never even think about coming down and checking out something that's on our doorstep that is just brilliant. It's remarkable.
I'm hoping they don't forget we're here and lock us in there.
It's a shame Doctor Who didn't come down and use this also as a location.
This would have been a brilliant great place for that, wouldn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah. Perhaps more Tom Baker style, but...
So we finished off the Colonel IPA HBC 431, and
which we all enjoyed without thinking it was in any way outstanding or remarkable.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Probably, I think, would we all agree that certainly not up there with the best Colonel beers that we've had before.
No.
But certainly there was nothing offensive about it.
No.
To me, it tasted, I'm not suggesting this is the case, it just tasted a little bit like it just wasn't quite ready. It just needed something else to happen.
Yeah. Another hop in there to help HBC along, perhaps. Available on keg though, so that the festival Colonel are on keg in the keg bar.
Right, now we are across to Laura for her choice.
And I've cheated a bit here as well and picked 2. I just don't want to shut up today, do I? I've selected as my breweries Beer Inc. and Wild Child, and Sean had a collaboration by them, which is particularly helpful. So I've picked them because Beer Inc. Head brewer Ryan, one of my absolute favourite people in beer. He's such a great chap and makes some really good beers too. He's been, I think he's quite well known, especially in Sheffield, and a lot of his beers go on at Shakespeare's that are kind of
He used to work at Brewdog, I think, didn't he? Sheffield.
You know, kind of the cakey beers, and he's done some with Steel
Star
City, Lost
Beer
Industry.
Star Beer is his perhaps most famous collaboration.
And he's going to be on at the festival as well. And I think he's also got a 3.8% Galaxy single hop pale, which I'll enjoy trying. And then, so yeah, Ryan's from Beer Inc. in Huddersfield, and then Wild Child have recently, I think, moved to newer, larger premises in Leeds.
Yeah.
Listeners who have been with us since the beginning may remember that I chose Wild Child's Opaque Reality as my favourite beer back in the early days of the podcast. One of those beers that just worked incredibly across all 3 formats.
Fantastic.
That was a mango and passion fruit milkshake pale, I think.
Which is now, I've noticed that's cropped, I can't remember which one it is, it's cropped up in one of the supermarkets and now selling it in 440ml cans.
If it's Opaque Reality, I did not know about that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I've seen it, I can't think where it is,
I'll look out for it.
But I've definitely seen it in one of the supermarkets.
But he's got a peach milkshake beer on cask at the festival this week, and then I believe a tiramisu stout on Key Keg as well. So rather fittingly, given all that I've just rambled on about, the collaboration that Sean's brought along for us today is a raspberry milkshake imperial stout. So fits really nicely with kind of all of those things that I love about both breweries. I've not tried this before, so I'm quite excited to try it.
Both of these breweries are examples of how things really do start off small. Both Kia from Wild Child and Ryan at Beer Inc. until recently were just single-person breweries, in this case single male breweries, and did all the orders, did all the brewing, did all the delivering, did all the promotion, did everything for their brewery. Ryan is still the same at the moment. Kira's done a great job in expanding his brewery in the last 3 to 6 months, got some funding, and now employs some staff to help him along and develop the brewery, bigger premises, brewing lots more beers. But not too long ago, it was similar to Ryan, one-person breweries, really just getting rolling, getting things moving and getting their foot in the industry. Incredibly hard working, both of them, to be able to do that and to have the motivation, be able to keep going and keep going and keep going with it. But it's paying dividends for both of them.
Yeah. I've never met Kate, but he's got my eternal gratitude. This last year
He's
when
a
I
real
was
character.
choosing the beers for Sunfest Festival, I got in touch with him and was like, I just basically fangirled about Opaque Reality Time, and he just replied to my email saying, I can brew it again for you if you want it at your festival. I was like, yes! So if you're listening, Keir, thank you.
I'm now doubting what I said, by the way, about seeing it in a supermarket. I wonder whether or not I actually just saw it in your shop.
Yeah, possibly. I know
Have
it
you
seems
got
like
it-
a
is it- and it-
supermarket
is it in-
facing...
It's in bigger cans now, isn't
it? We've had it in the 330 mils previously.
Right.
We've not stocked it recently.
No, I've seen it somewhere recently in 440ml
yeah,
cans. I
yeah.
can't think where.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's available somewhere.
I don't think
if you like it.
supermarket, though, yeah.
But yeah, I'm really doubting where I saw it now. It's going to drive me at the wall.
I like this beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is On the Raz, which is a great name for a raspberry milkshake imperial stout. Took me a couple of minutes to work out the raz bit, and I've got it. 8.1%. Doesn't taste it, as you probably expect of a beer like this that carries its percentage
Slides
really
down
well.
very easy. Very tasty. You get everything that it's supposed to offer. There's raspberry in there. There's a milkshake feel to it.
Yep.
Whether there's an imperial feel to it, I'm not sure. Imperial stouts, it's 8.1%. I'd love it just to be a little bit thicker on the mouthfeel and a little bit creamier.
Looks like it's
agree
got no lactose in it,
Yeah.
which is unusual for a milkshake beer.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So a little bit thin, but despite that, delivers all the flavour.
Yep. Very, very enjoyable. I absolutely, completely agree with what you're saying, that there's just that thinness.
On cask
And
again.
I'd be
on
quite interested to
cask,
see
I
what
think,
happened if you were to
it'd be
leave a bottle for
phenomenal.
2 or 3 months and come back to it and just see what
Yeah,
happens
see
in the
what
meantime.
conditions.
Because it's just lacking a bit of beefiness, isn't it?
Yeah, I think cask would be perfect delivery for that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Really
Give
nice
you all the
beer.
mouthfeel. You could go a little bit silly on a night of that on cask.
I don't want to go a bit silly on it. Right now, give me a week or two.
I'll tell you who would love that. Adam would love that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it would.
Despite us putting a sack of taties down there to replace him, I've got to admit I'm missing Adam so far tonight. Yeah, I never thought I would say that because obviously I like to take the Mickey out of him, but he's been very polite. I wanted to say take the piss out of him then, but for some reason Adam's not here and I'm being more polite.
Yeah, you're being a nice person.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
what a sack of potatoes does to you.
Yeah, I need Adam back. Come back. Mon ami is in France, isn't he?
He's away for a full month. He's living.
That.
He's off recreating Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, or something.
In a camper
he's in a camper van for a month with his wife and child, and they're kind of driving around Europe. So obviously no Adam tonight, and there's no Adam on the next edition of the Hopcast Half Pint. Which means it's me and Laura for the next half pint, which is going to be
first ever half pint.
which is going to be really good fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Just in case nobody's heard enough of me tonight. Get a double Laura this month.
Is it true that you're not here for the next full edition of the Hopcast?
Sad but true. So this is such an awful story as well, because we are recording the next edition of the Hopcast in effectively my local, and I think there is one pub that's actually nearer than this pub to where I live, but I consider it to be by my local, and I was really super excited about going there to record the next edition, and as it turns out something's cropped up and I can't make it.
Right, we need an alternative sack of vegetables. Turnips perhaps, Laura, or is he a parsnip guy, do you think?
I would have probably say sprouts because they're a bit stinky.
Oh, actually, no. Whereas Adam's a bit more of a traditional guy, Spuds, you're a little bit more cutting edge, aren't you? With your baseball cap.
Maybe like
There's a little bit more.
Yeah, like a celeriac or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Do you know what I wouldn't mind being is
Asparagus. I bet
fennel.
you.
I'd like to be
Oh yeah,
fennel.
fennel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fennel's unusual, it's versatile, you can do a lot of things with it.
Yeah.
It smells nice.
You like your aniseed. Has anyone ever used fennel in a beer yet to get that aniseedy flavour?
Yeah,
into
I've
a
had
beer?
a fennel beer.
You get aniseed in beer, but I don't know whether fennel's been used for it.
I'm sure I've had a beer that's had fennel seeds in it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I might like that.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
like a
little
a fennel goes.
Yeah.
I get confused between beers and tea
All right.
because they seem to follow a similar pattern of just like
Always
randomness.
in loads of tea. Isn't it?
Yeah, so I've definitely had fennel tea. I don't know if I've had
So any breweries out there listening want to come up with a little fennel goes?
Well, maybe this
Right.
could be. We're still after the concept, aren't we? For
So we need to get a sack of
The
fennel
Hopcast
for
beer.
next time. Let's make a note in the Hopcast diary for that next time.
I feel like this evening has taken an unusual
Yeah,
turn.
yeah.
I'm just.
Without Adam, I think we've been a little bit sort of bland and boring early doors there. So that's why we've gone fennel and gone a little bit crazier, I think.
I think we're all just a little bit. I mean, I was away in Bristol yesterday and quite a few beers. Laura's obviously a little worse for wear
It's a bit
today.
delicate.
Yeah.
You left the house how many minutes after waking up this morning to go to work?
11.
11 minutes after waking up. This
Yeah.
young lady went to work.
So it's a good job it's an audio.
Did you get a formal verbal warning
Oh
by
no, I was on
10
time
a.m.?
for work. No,
I,
Yeah.
I'm no doubt you were there, but you were in shape to carry out your duties.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And I do still feel a bit tired actually from Friday, but I'm 51, so it does take 3 or 4 days to get over a
fully
festival.
recover.
Whereas you young fennelly types have got a quicker turnaround.
I'm just. I'm reading up fennel beers.
yeah.
There doesn't seem to have been many made. Someone suggested a fennel vit might be quite nice.
Yeah, like a fennel wheat beer,
I can see that.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a goes.
So look out for the new Fennel Abbeydale Goes, launched in January 2019. We need to come up with a name for it, obviously.
James.
Aniseed, there's got to be something, isn't there? There's got to be a pun name.
Yeah, let me work on it.
I'd like to give a little shout out to a beer that I had at Indie Man on Friday, and shamefully I've forgotten the brewery, but the beer I think was called Second Hardest Kid in the Infants, and
Yes.
it made me laugh. It made me want to buy it. It was a very tasty little 3-point-something% beer, but really did make me laugh. Pomona Island it was, actually, from Manchester. It's very funny name.
Well remembered.
But we do have a beer to come that's got an even better name.
I'm just trying to find. I took a photo of a beer. Here we go. Are any of you fans of or previously viewed Father Ted?
Yes, of course.
Right. There was a beer on by
If there-
Boundary,
Yeah.
which was called Ecumenical Matter.
Yeah.
That was the name
Very
of it.
good.
And I've got a group of friends that live in Scotland who are all big fans of Father Ted, and we have often had different kind of conversations about them. So I told them that I was going to buy this beer and just stand there until someone came over and asked me, what beer's that? So I could use
This
the...
would be an academic.
Yes. You've got to have watched Father Ted to get that, but that's one of my favourite
If we do have any listeners that don't like Father Ted, I'd prefer it if they would switch off now. We don't want types like you listening to a podcast like this. Thank you.
Right, any closing thoughts on the Raz? I like, actually, the more I drink it, the more I've got into it.
Yeah, very tasty. Ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of mouthfeel. I am desperate and know I will find that on cask somewhere.
Yeah.
Got to.
No, I really liked it and looking forward to trying the cakey, milkshakey, chocolatey, desserty treats that are lined up from Wednesday at the festival.
Very good.
Speaking of the festival, let's find out a little bit more about it and have a chat with Paul, who is one of the organisers.
He's now the head organiser.
He's the head organiser.
Yeah, he stepped in. Louise has been lead organiser for the last 2-3 years. Paul's been an assistant, and Paul has taken the step up this time. But a few moments ago, down in the beer tent, when we saw him outside, Paul's outside, in fact, the mill owners as we speak, giving us a thumbs up. Louise was still helping him out there, so it's good to see that she's not letting a pupil get away with the easy times.
He did just walk up to the door in a high vis and walk away again.
He did give us a thumbs up though, so he looked very happy, and the job that's held him up from talking with us tonight has obviously been solved.
Right, good. Well, even though he's come to the door and now gone away, through the magic of podcasting, we can now hear from Paul. So, Paul, I'm guessing, really easy week for you, not much involved at all.
No, nothing. It's been very, very simple. Everything was finished about 10 o'clock this morning, and we've just been sat having a beer since then.
So as we talk now, it's Monday evening, and it is pitch black outside. I'm guessing that you've been here for a long time. Just kind of talk us through what the days leading up to the beer festival entail. When do you start, and how long does it take?
Well, I mean, the process all starts around February time, believe it or not. So we have monthly meetings going through, just basically planning what we're going to do, who's doing what. My job as organiser really is to sort of oversee what people are doing, to sort of not make sure that they're doing it, but just to keep an eye on what's happening. There's certain people, you give them a task and they'll go off and get that done straight away. Other people you might need to give a help to, but you just got to keep an eye on things really. It's a pretty experienced team of people really. They've been doing the festival for a long time, most of them. We are trying to plan a little bit of succession planning because there's a few people who want to step back a little bit, so we're trying to bring new people in to learn what they do. But really, for the last couple of years, we've just really repeated what the festival was. So we gave everybody a chance to learn how to do it. So we made a few little changes because we don't want it to get stale. We don't want it to be people to come to the festival and think, well, this is just like last year. So we want to try and make a few changes. And some of them are quite minor little changes, really. But we just think it's something people will notice. We got a few ideas for next year. We've looked at possibility of tutored tastings, so tasting sessions in one of the rooms. I quite like the idea of having an introduction to beer session, because we get a lot of people, and you can tell from, I've worked the tokens desk where as soon as they come in, people need to buy a token. So I'm on the desk where they come up and buy the tokens, and you can tell they're not really beer people. They've just come because it's a beer festival, but they want to know what they can drink, what they can try. And I think a little introduction to beer session, just half an hour, that people can go into a separate room and we'll run through, what's a pale ale and what's a stout, and the real basics really for people who aren't familiar, and then they can go through all that and see all the different types of beer you can get, and then go out into the festival, and there you go, there's 250 of them,
go and explore.
Yeah.
So what are we, 48 hours away now from the first session? How on track is everything?
More or less, yeah. We're sort of happy with where we are at the moment. By the Monday night, you have to get all the beer in place and get the chilling on it, so it keeps it cool. So you're not going to move it for the next almost 2 days, really. So by the time Wednesday comes around at 5 o'clock when we open, the beer's been sat there for almost 2 days, completely still, with the chilling on it, keeping it cool. So it's in good condition when we open up, and we've achieved that. Everything's in place. It's taken a while. The chilling systems use cold water that it pumps around the pipework, and of course inevitably there's some leaks here and there, so you have to find them and sort that out. But as we stand now at 8 o'clock Monday night, it's in place. So we're happy.
Excellent. And just a word really on this venue, because I know obviously Sheffield Beer Festival's been at a few different places. I went to it when I was at, just up the road at Ponds Forge, and there's been a couple of other places it's been over the years as well, and it's really found its home now here at Kelham Island Museum. And it's such a kind of a unique venue for something like a beer festival, and an amazing backdrop for just enjoying some beers.
Oh, it's a fantastic venue, because you've got, we have the upper hall where we put the bands, and that's clearly a big old industrial building. And then you come through, there's the Mill Owners Arms where we are now, which a lot of people come in and think it's a replica of a pub, and it's got all the brewery photos and things on the walls, and it's got some nice hand pumps and everything, but you can actually really operate it as a pub. So that's what we do. Bradfield take that over. They've been good sponsors for us for the last few years. So that's a nice part of it. We've now got the keg room, and there's just lots of it. There's the Riverdom steam engine that they run 3 times a day for us, which is spectacular looking thing. So it's just history. Kelham Island's got a lot of history anyway, and the museum sort of celebrates that. And although you're not going into the museum itself, there's enough around it as you're walking around the festival to realise this is where you are. This is Sheffield's history sort of thing. So yeah, it's a fantastic venue, I think.
Just worth mentioning as well is that obviously you guys on the committee work so hard to make this happen, but it wouldn't take place if not for the amazing volunteers that you've got.
Oh, yes, we've got, I think, 180 volunteers this year, but everybody involved in the festival is a volunteer. Nobody's paid at all. Everybody just does it because they like the festival, they like to be involved, and it's great. It's nice to feel part of a team. There's a lot of people you can tell they like to come in because they want to be a team of people that are producing something. And when it's all underway and it's all working fine, you can sort of sit there and think, yeah, we did this. This is great. It's hard to describe that sort of sense of satisfaction that it's all working and there's a big group of you all got together and did it. So yeah, the committee put an awful lot of work in. I know they do. But the volunteers do give up their time. There's people being in here today that will be here for 2, 3, 4 days this week. They've taken time off work and they come in at 9 o'clock and they stay till 7 o'clock. And when we're open, they'll come in at midday and they'll work right through till midnight. They do a lot of work. So yeah, if it wasn't for them, there would be no festival. Yeah.
Absolutely. On behalf of kind of the beer community of Sheffield, thank you to you and to everyone that puts the time into making this happen, because it's a fantastic event. I can't wait for Wednesday to come around. I'm coming on Friday as well, and then again on Saturday. It's always a fantastic, really good event to be at. So big thanks to you and everyone that makes it happen. Paul, thank you for your time, and have a tremendous Sheffield Beer Festival.
I'm sure we will. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
So we are on to our final beer of the night, which has been picked by Paul, and he picked out, and this is a good choice actually, Abbeydale, who have several beers on at the festival over the weekend, spread across both the cask and the keg.
Come on, how many? Is several appropriate? People often accuse us of perhaps not being quite... We're a bit relaxed with this, not knowing when a brewery started and not knowing the facts and figures sometimes. So several beers when we have an Abbeydale employee sat at the table tapping at a phone trying to work out how many they've got on.
I can tell you that they've got...
Come on, how many?
Five on the keg
how many
bar.
Several.
5 on the keg bar, including the one that we're about to drink.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to have a guess at 5 on the cask bar.
You would be correct.
Get
so
in
10
there.
all
I'll check
together.
it. Yeah. There you go for all you fact
I was
finders.
going to guess at 10.
We do know what we're on about.
Including Citizen, which I think we need to talk about in a minute, but we'll come back to that. This has been picked out then, so it's one of Paul's favourite breweries. This is a beer that is on at the festival. It's Splash It All Over. It's a Brut IPA. Laura, you're probably the best place to tell us a little bit about the story of this, because it is a collab beer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a collaboration with Han Bryggeriet from Norway. I've probably pronounced that atrociously. But we got Casper, who's one of their brewers, came over a few weeks ago. He was really keen to try out a Brut IPA. I believe it's not something that he'd made. Obviously quite an up-and-coming beer style at the moment that we were pretty keen to have a go at as well. And we're all really, really pleased with how it came out. It's in the same artwork series as what was started by Creeping Brett by Lewis Ryan. So it's really, really colourful. It's got a mermaid on it, and the mermaid came before the name. And it was actually my dad, so shout out to Den, who has named this beer Splash It All Over after the Brut ads back in the day that I'm definitely not old enough to remember.
Henry Cooper, Kevin Keegan. Yeah.
I'm not 30
Are we
yet,
familiar
Sean,
with
I
any
don't know
others?
I'm 37, and even I don't know nothing.
Shamefully, I did have some Brut when I was younger, but I think I borrowed it off my dad, so that's okay, isn't it? When you're an up-and-coming young tyke, to nick your dad's aftershave.
There's also, my other favourite thing about this label is it was drawn pre-Bake Off beginning, and Bake Off is one of the only things I really like watching on the telly, and we've just discovered, if you watch it, the mermaid looks exactly like Kim Joy off the Bake Off. But obviously any resemblance completely coincidental, but that did make us chuckle.
The other thing that I noticed, and this is very visual and may not make sense, but the cap that I'm wearing, which is of the football club in Germany that I follow called St. Pauli, their club logo also appears to be in several places on the can, which is the old Jolly Roger kind of skull and crossbones thing, which is crops up on the can as well. And this all works brilliantly on a podcast because you can't see it. But if you find yourself at the beer festival at the weekend buying it, then have a gander.
Yeah, and if you do get a can, keep your labels, because there's going to be 6 in this series, and they're all going to join together.
Very clever.
It's going to be a craft beer jigsaw.
Are you doing a book? Are you doing a book from To All Going, like Northern Monk? Yeah, come on, this is it.
Not sure my merch skills extend quite that far. Anyway, shall I open it?
We should also thank Robin Baker down at Abbeydale, who organised for the beer to be dropped off. We've had some dropped off today to sell from tomorrow, but managed to organise that this afternoon. We were going to use another Abbeydale beer, but Robin ran up to the shop this afternoon to sort this one out for us.
I guess it's the first time actually, because I did post earlier a photo of the beers that we were using tonight, and it was almost like a stop press, last minute kind of substitution, someone injured in the warm-up, so we have
When
to...
you've got your best striker on the bench and they're Nelson sells fit, you've got to get them to squad, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Brute IPA intended to be quite an effervescent style and dry on the palate, but with a really nice burst of fruitiness in there as well, borrowing the name from the world of champagne.
I have been very underwhelmed so far by the Brute IPAs that have been released, hit the scene, whatever you want to call it, over the last 6 weeks or so. But I had the first one that I really liked at Indie Man on Friday. That was a Buxton. I think it was called Intercontinental Brute. But there was a fruitiness to that, followed by the dryness. And on a lot of them, I've just found them to be dry from the start and dry to the finish. But there was fruit up from, then dryness, which I really enjoyed.
How does this compare?
It compares very favourably, I'm glad to say. Very favourably. So this is perhaps my second favourite Brute of all time. But if I have another drink of it, it could easily jostle the Buxton one for a top spot.
The thing I really like about this that I think has been lacking from the others that I've tried, it's that little tickle right at the back of your throat as you swallow it, which really does make you feel a bit like you're drinking a wine.
Yes.
Sparkling wine.
Gets your tongue and the roof.
It's a good description,
mouth,
that.
particularly.
There is a tickle going on.
Also, in other hilarious Brute IPA news, me and Jim took the first keg of this to meet the brewer in Birmingham, and we took it on the train, which absolutely baffled and slightly terrified our fellow passengers.
So that is very good.
It's not a style that I've particularly explored, I've got to be honest.
No. I found them a bit one-dimensional, and it's deliberate that they should be dry. I saw a review that's been posted on social media recently where somebody complained that a Brute IPA was a little bit too dry and marked it down on Untapped, which caused a lot of hilarity. But they are. It feels like a simpler style in terms of the dryness, but I just enjoyed the Buxton one particularly because it had something else going off as well. Whether that's true to the style or not, I'm not sure. A style that's come out of San Francisco. So apologies if that's not true to the style, but that made me enjoy it more.
Right.
And this one, I think, again, has got a little bit more going off in it than some of the others that have been released so far.
I'm quite enjoying it because it's so much different to what I would normally drink, and that makes it really interesting to me. It's not a style that I necessarily seek out, but the fact that it is different,
I'm not sure it's a Moorish style in terms of sort of drinkability. I'm not sure it's one where you want to keep going again and again and again.
I see it working quite well at something like a beer festival, because when you've got a lot of stuff that's maybe of a similarish style, or stuff that's quite out there, and every so often you need something that's just that little bit different.
Sort of resets the palate a bit.
I think it would be a nice match-up with foods particularly. There's a sort of simplicity and that dryness would match up. I'm keen to eat something with that.
I can see it working quite well with some fish dishes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe something chicken related.
Yeah.
Maybe even fennel.
Fennel
like
Brute.
sea bass and fennel.
Sea bass and fennel Brute IPA.
Yeah, it sounds fucking awful. We've got some really important business that we've got to take care of. I didn't mention that we were going to talk about this because I thought Sean might not turn up in a sulk. Because
hang on, what's happening? Do you know, Laura? Do you know?
Well, if you remember the last time when we recorded it,
we've been given our notice papers.
when Sean got absolutely leathered before we even started recording. We each presented our suggested name for what a 1/3 measure should be called. And
I thought this was.
Oh no, it wasn't for a 1/3 measure. It was for a plastic glass. Somehow it ended up also.
I thought this was all done with and sorted, and
yeah, but we haven't presented the final results.
Publicly awarded on air yet, Sean.
So
my kisses were audible.
At this point, concede total defeat because I came last with 18% with Thika, which was a combination of third and Beaker, which I thought was good. Adam came second to last.
Oh, no, hang on, no. I think you were lucky to get that amount of votes, so we need to analyse each one. You were very lucky.
I'm lucky to come last.
You were very lucky. What did you get? 13%?
18%.
I have no idea how that got 18%.
Well, because it's a good idea.
No. The
None
third bit...
None of them crashed and burned.
The third bit
That's
had no
nice.
bearing on it at all. And I was there when you announced it. Subsequently, I couldn't understand what the
But I mean, to be fair though,
meant.
but, I mean,
I didn't even know it was a third.
you were shit-faced, so you know.
So Thika, 18%.
Yeah, 19% for Swiggle. I mean, come on, what's that got to do with beer? Swiggle.
I agree. I also think that was very lucky to get such a high percentage. It's ridiculous.
That was Adam's
so I think
suggestion.
that's family and friends. My mum and dad aren't on social media and didn't vote for mine, whereas
There
Well,
were
mate, it wouldn't make no
200
difference.
votes cast,
Oh,
Sean.
my
Those
dad
people
is.
would
He's not
have
on
saved
Twitter.
you.
My dad's not on Twitter.
277 votes altogether. So we talk about what came third last, or second if you want to call it that. That was Beaker, the suggestion from Sean with his fancy branding and his
Beautiful
carefully
logo.
printed off on slightly
Beautiful.
thicker than normal
No
paper.
votes from family and friends. What percentage did I get?
26%.
26. I can't believe that you were only 8% behind mine. I can't believe that.
Well, I can. because my idea wasn't that bad. So, but the winner by a country mile, to be fair, with 37%. So, I mean, a long way ahead of the rest of us, was Laura with Plus,
Thank you to all who voted for me.
which you really talked down when you suggested
did,
it.
I thought
and I
it
got the
was-
impression that
I
you
thought
spent
it
all
was
of a
sympathy
minute
vote.
thinking
It's
about
potential
it.
sympathy
I have
vote.
thought about it loads. It's just the idea that came into my head first was like the only one that ever happened. And I remember thinking it's just too straightforward. But then actually, in hindsight, that's exactly what we needed, was something clear, to the point, you know.
In York on Monday lunchtime, me and Deb went into the King's Arms down by the river, the pub that floods.
So that's
Sam
Sam Smith's
Smith's.
one?
Yeah.
Sam Smith's.
One with the markers on the...
Markers on the wall. We walked to the front entrance, no swearing, no spitting, no nothing, no this, no that, no groups of 8 or more, lots of rules. Got in, and Deb went and got beers from bar and put mine down in front of me, and I picked it up, and it was a plastic glass.
A glass?
All of the glasses in the pub were made of it was a very smart version of a plastic glass. It wasn't sort of flimsy.
No.
It was a real smart version, probably one of the best. But as she put it down and I picked it up, I said, oh, that's a beaker. But then within, Laura, I promise you, within at least 2-3 seconds, I said, actually, no, it's a Plas.
Oh.
So
like
humble,
that story.
humble in
It's a
defeat.
true story. True story. And then I think I complained about rigged or something, and
Well,
yeah,
congratulations.
it was a plus, and I didn't feel daft saying it.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how it
So
takes off.
let's hope Uncle Sam Smith's Brewery can
Should I trademark it quickly?
think you should, yeah.
adapt it.
I think you should. Right, we're going to have to pick a beer of the night. There's only 3 of us, so this shouldn't be any real chance of it being a tie, unless we all pick one
It's,
different
yeah,
beer.
yeah, that
So
would
it
be
could
very easy.
actually could very easily be a tie. I'm talking out my arse. Laura, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I know I picked it, but I'm going to go for the Beer Inc. Wild Child collaboration. Partly because I wasn't sure how drinking beer was going to treat me today, and I thought 8.1% Imperial Stout, oh no. And then I drank it and was like, no, actually, this is making me feel good about myself again. So, for that reason, I'm going to pick that, and I'm genuinely excited to try their beers collectively on Wednesday night when I'm down here.
Okay. I don't think this is going to make any sense. That was also probably my favourite beer. However, I am going to pick the Abbeydale Brut IPA for the reason that it surprised me the most out of all of them. And I found it a lot more enjoyable than I thought that I would do. and as much as I enjoyed was it called On the Raz? Just thought it was just a little thin. Whereas I can't really fault this for the style that it's trying to achieve. So that's 1 vote each. So Sean has, well, either casting vote or he could throw a total curveball and make it a 3-way tie.
I'm not going to do that. So my choice was also the two that you two have also voted for. And
This is tense. This is almost like waiting for the final results of the plastic glass.
There's no fennel involved, thankfully. Flavour-wise, I really enjoyed On the Raz, but I agree with you. I think that was just a little bit too thin in bottle. I'm hoping perhaps via a keg or cask I'd enjoy that even more, and I will honestly look to seek that out. But the one beer that's absolutely nailed what it should be tonight is Splash It All Over, the Aberdale Brute, and again more interesting, and I'm not sure, I'm not a brewer, I'm not sure whether a Brute IPA should reveal interesting things. It could be that the style is just really one-dimensional and just go for the dryness. But that and the Buxton that I've had recently have been the best two so far, because they give you something first before the dryness hit your tongue and the roof of your mouth.
I think you are supposed to have a degree of like an aromatic level in there that for me has also been missing from some of the others that I've tried. Which I think has resulted in quite a lot of them tasting old quite quickly.
Yeah, they do.
Whereas I do think this has a really nice freshness to it. And yeah, we're really happy with how it came out.
So 6.5%. There's rice in there, which is very interesting.
Yeah, well, that was added to kind of ensure that the overall mouthfeel of the beer was kept fairly light. And also it doesn't add any colour. And we wanted it to be really pale. Just keeps it that nice level of crispness and doesn't add any sweetness in.
When was that
either.
canned, Laura? When was that canned?
Friday last week, so it's been in can for
Fresh as you like.
3 days.
Wow.
And yes, in keg at Sheffield Beer Festival, along with 4 other Aberdale kegs of 5 casks.
That's 10 in total. Will Aberdale be top dogs at this year's beer festival? Will any other brewery have more beers on show at the festival? We'll see on Wednesday night.
You broke into full-on radio presenting.
I really did that, didn't I? I enjoyed it as well.
It was almost like the bloke from Big Brother, but without the dodgy accent.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I'm at the beer festival Wednesday night, Friday night, and Saturday daytime.
I'm at the beer festival on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think I'm only going to make it on Wednesday night as well. Unfortunately, but it's always a.
But I won't be driving,
night,
so I'll be
really
getting
looking
steamed.
forward to
I'll be getting steamed in. Definitely. Looking forward to it.
I will be armed with a microphone, so we will hopefully be doing a short special edition from the opening night of the beer festival on Wednesday. On Friday and Saturday, I won't be armed with a microphone.
Should we on Wednesday all wear our Sheffield Hopcast t-shirts?
I think
then
we should.
If any of our listeners
Yes.
want to come and give us the finger in the face and tell us how shit we are, we're there and available, aren't we?
Absolutely, and if anyone, however, would like to come and have a chat with us just about their favourite beers rather than telling us how shit we are, then they'd be more than welcome to do that as well. So keep an eye out for Sean and I. And do you have a Hopcast t-shirt?
I don't actually have one yet.
Laura,
no.
I didn't know
I think
this.
it's-
I wouldn't have suggested this if I didn't know.
Well, I'm going to be.
That's appalling
I
from
don't-
Adam.
I am
Adam
wait-
goes off to
well-
France and kits everybody else up apart
It's
from
like
you.
a sack of spuds, isn't
Well,
it?
I think I've been inspired actually by Adam's little girl who has a pink Hopcast
Yes, she
t-shirt,
has.
so I think I'm going to copy her.
Yeah, well, Adam's good on the t-shirt. Whether he can meet the challenge of organising a t-shirt for Laura from France
By Wednesday.
by
I think
Wednesday
that's
evening.
doubtful.
Well,
You never know.
we would have to change the vegetable if he managed it.
He's also got the task as well of being in charge next month, because I will not be here for the November the November edition of the Hopcast, so it's all over to Adam, who will be in sole charge next time around. So
No pressure, Adam.
I wish you both the best of luck.
It'll be a shambles, man.
I'll be better behaved than I have been today, I promise.
Brill, I'll be back in December for potentially something a little bit different that we're going to be doing then for our festive edition of the Hopcast. But for now, have a fantastic Sheffield Beer Festival. Come and see us if you're here on Wednesday, and keep an eye out on Friday and Saturday. I'll be around then as well. And we will see you again in November.